And the big question is just why are Kenyans furious over the new IMF loans to Kenya? While KTN's Abi Agina explains why many are outraged over this new loan, which is meant to assist the country at a time the Kenyan economy continues to contract, with the Jubilee administration turning a blind eye to the rising debt levels.
It has been a rough week for the National Treasury, as well as staff at the International Monetary Fund in Washington, D.C., in the United States. The internet has been awash after Kenyans kicked off a social media campaign dubbed "Stop Loaning Kenya" and signed the petition, all in an attempt to challenge the government's unquenchable loan accumulation spree. Well, as this campaign goes on, one would ask, why are Kenyans directing their anger to the IMF and not Parliament or the head of state?
Taxes will increase, automatically impact on our household level. Secondly, our business will collapse automatically because more things, people will not be able to purchase goods because of escalating debts and also the taxation issue which will be affecting their households.
Isha ni affect kwa sababu sahi cost of living iko juu. Si wenyewe tumeshazoea mtu anakutolea hadi 500, unaenda nyumbani unakula unajua hiyo. Sahi hata mtu akikupea mbao ni Mungu.
Now, let's get a clear understanding how the IMF works. The IMF was created in 1945 to act as a global lender to countries that were in financial distress, such as economic recession and war. The global lender works on a country-by-country specific program that are negotiated and approved if a country commits to honor the IMF's conditions. The latest loan of 255 billion shillings is meant to assist Kenya meet its budget deficit as well as stabilize the economy, which has been severely ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic. Kenya's budget for 2020-2021 financial year stands at 3.2 trillion shillings. This means that, going by the revenue collection figures, the country has a budget deficit of about 840 billion shillings, which must be plugged by sourcing for funds from the international lenders at affordable rates.
When people seem to have money, they seem to spend a lot, and inflation creeps in. Then the exchange rate also goes a little bit haywire, and therefore the IMF has to come in to stabilize those short-term shocks.
IMF came the first time. The prescriptions that were given to our government were very painful. People losing jobs, people being retrenched, people being given golden handshake, and people remember that suffering.
Kenya's total public debt is standing at 7.35 trillion shillings, which is 7 times what the President Kibaki-led administration borrowed in its 10 years in power. Of significant importance with these loans from the IMF is the conditions they come with. For example, as Kenya prepares to access these funds, the country has accepted to increase revenue collection by introducing new taxes to ensure there are no revenue shortfalls. And these are the outcomes that have got Kenyans angry with the government, maintaining we must borrow to finance infrastructure projects such as roads, hospitals and schools. Other conditions include strong governance of public institutions, which will see a major reduction in the public wage bill. This means the government will have to retrench employees in the civil service to tame the ballooning wage bill, which is pegged at over 700 billion shillings. This will result into job losses and increased taxes. Kenya is presently out of options to borrow from commercial lenders, and thus the reason why the country has to play by the rules set out by the IMF or risk falling into an economic recession. The structural adjustment programs being championed by the IMF are not new to Kenya. In the early 1980s, the country was put on the same path as IMF and the Bretton Woods institutions called for austerity measures and privatization of state-owned enterprises to stabilize the economy. Back in 2015, when Kenya sought financial support from the IMF, the country had to increase value-added tax in order to access a 68 billion shillings credit line. As the country navigates through the COVID-19 storm, the anger by Kenyans to the IMF could just be misguided. Abiyagina, KTN News.
Well, we now know where we're coming from and our historic relationship with IMF. Right now, I want to bring in